Hey guys, here's a quick video on measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. So the measures of central tendency, and you've probably seen these before, are mean, median, and mode. Alright, so the mean is the average of a data set. So how you find that is you add all the numbers and divide it by the quantity of numbers, or how many numbers there are. And that'll get you your mean. So you add up every number, divide by how many numbers there are. And I'm sure you're familiar with that idea. Sometimes you're going to see the mean referred to as x bar. So it's just an x with a line on the top of it. And all that's saying is our numerical average. It means the exact same thing as if I asked you for the mean or for the average. The median is the middle number. To get your median, your middle number, you have to list your values from least to greatest, so your smallest to your largest number, and then basically cross off from the outside to that middle number, and we'll do an example of that at the end. If you were to have an even number of data points, you have two middle numbers, because you wouldn't have that one in the middle like you would with an odd number of data points, so you take the average of those two numbers. And I'll show you that again in our example. The mode is the value that occurs most frequently. You could have one mode, you could have multiple modes, or you could have no mode at all. So again, it's the one that occurs most frequently. Measures of dispersion are ones you're probably a little less familiar with. We measure dispersion with the range and the interquartile range. So the range is the difference between the greatest value and the least value. So when you list your data points from least to greatest, to find your median, of course, you take your biggest number, subtract your smallest number. Okay, so the largest minus the smallest is your range. The interquartile range is the difference between the first quartile and the third quartile. You might not know what a quartile is yet, but we will get to that when I do an example. Basically what you're doing is you're taking the median of the upper half and the lower half of the data, and you're subtracting it. So first quartile is the median of the lower half of the data. And the third quartile is the median of the upper half. And to get your interquartile range, sometimes you'll see me write it as IQR. That's your third quartile, or Q3, minus your first quartile, or Q1. And again, I'll show you an example of that in a second. All right, so let's look at an example. We're going to talk about a data set of the cost of new shoes. So we're going to find the measure of central tendency range, and we're also going to find the interquartile range. So some of this is going to be easy, but the first thing I always want to do is list it from least to greatest. I know there's some things I can find just by looking at it, but the best way to do this is to list from least to greatest, so I can start with all my measures of central tendency. So I have 49, 50, 55, another 55. Make sure if something repeats, you write it twice. And if you want to make sure that you're getting all your data points, cross them out to make sure that you've written them. 62, 70, 75 three times. 1, 3, and 79. All right, so I'm going to first find my mean. For my mean, I got to add up all these numbers and divide by 10, since I have 10 data points. So why don't you try it as I do it? So I'm going to do This is all stuff you can easily do on a calculator. 49 plus 50 plus 55 plus 55 plus 62 plus 70 plus 75 plus 75 plus 75 plus 79 equals, and I get 645 over 10. Okay, 645 is the number I got from adding all these up. 10 is because there's 10 data points. I divide those, and I would get 64.5. And that's my mean. So as far as calculating goes, that's really the only one where you have to use any type of actual calculation. The next, we have to look for our median. So we're looking for the middle number. So we're going to go from the outside in. So we take one from each side until we reach the middle. Looks like we have two numbers, right? You can't get rid of both of them or you don't have a median. So we got to take the average of the two. And we do that by adding 62 and 70 divided by 2. Because there's, again, the average. You add the two numbers and divide by how many there are. There's two numbers. So we divide by 2 and we add those two numbers up. So that's 132 over 2. And our median is 66. All right, so then our mode, which is our most common number. If you look at our data set, we've listed 75 3 times, so our mode's got to be 75. It's the most common number. Next one is the range. Range is the largest minus the smallest, so that's got to be 79, which is our biggest number, minus 49, our smallest number, and that's going to give us 30. Last piece of information we're looking for here is our interquartile range. So what we need to find is quartile 1 and quartile 3. Right now, if we split this data in half, right, so 5 on each side, because when we have 2 points in the middle, we put one on the bottom, one on the top. And we find the median in the lower and the upper half. So we're going to find the median down here is 55, so we're going to call that quartile 1. Right, the median in the lower half is quartile 1. And we'll do the same for the top half. And this 75 is quartile 3, the median of the upper half of the data. So all our interquartile range is 75 minus 55, or 20. What the interquartile range gives us is how spread out the middle 50% of our data is, and the range is just how spread out our data is as a whole. The mean is the average. The median is right in the middle, and sometimes it best describes our data because it splits it right in half, and the mode is the most common number, which has its values sometimes for telling us a lot about a data set.